Welcome to the Perth Entrepreneur Podcast with me, Neil Gibb, where each week we use the stories and journeys of other successful business owners to motivate, inspire, and empower you to become the next breed of successful entrepreneurs. This week on the Perth Entrepreneur Podcast, we continue with the Angad Singh interview. We talk about how his business, Sadhana Constructions, was created and scaled in a tough Perth market, and how a trip to Reunion Island led to him and his fiance to establish a rum importation company. So you formed the company, you've got yourself and your dad, and who else came across with you?
In the beginning, it was our construction manager, Gurpreet.
Yep.
He was he's the MVP, without a doubt.
What's MVP for people that don't know?
The most valuable player. Yeah. So his background, his experience, and you know everything else that he brought to the team, he's a gun. Yeah. So most businesses, I think, if you are starting a business, your job is to find that person that you can build a business around, and they've got to have a certain like X factor and a certain skill set and a certain ability to execute. Mm-hmm. And then you can essentially know that if I have this person as my rock, I can build a business around that person's skill set. And he was that guy for us in the beginning. Yeah.
Right. Because I know that your team's grown quite a lot since then. So from yourself, your dad, and Gurpreet, how big's the team now, and how long did it take to get to that size?
Yeah, so now we have a team of 12, which is it's crazy when you think about how many people have come on board in the recent times.
Yeah, but, and that's office-based staff. We're not talking about tradies and outsourcers and all that sort of stuff.
There'd be dozens of subcontractors. That's office stuff. Yeah, basically when it comes to business, you should think about what your competitive advantage is, and you should try not to outsource your competitive advantage. Everything else you can outsource. So in a building company, the key parts of your competitive advantage is usually your supervision. So supervision is very important because it encompasses your quality checks and your execution and that kind of thing. Then you've got your design, and then you've got your estimation. Estimation, in my opinion, is one of the most important elements of a building company that is poorly done, or not, or people don't necessarily understand just how important it actually is.
Yeah. So your dad and Gurpreet are the estimation gurus there.
Gurpreet used to do estimates. He doesn't anymore.
Yeah.
Now he's trained. I mean, Gurpreet, if you think about it, he was the guy. Now he's got a team of 6 around him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, he's built out a team of people and he's trained them appropriately, and they've taken on parts of his role. And honestly, in a lot of ways, they're better than him at the specific roles that they do now.
Wow.
But that's what a MVP does, right? Is he builds up the rest of their team as well.
Yeah, definitely. So I just want to go back to when you first established the business, and there was just the 3 of you there. That was the 3 of you that sort of sat down, got all the systems and processes in place. How did you get your first project through the doors?
Yeah, good question. So I know that that's how you're supposed to set up a business, is with systems and processes. It's not how I've ever set up a business. It's more like, I reckon it'll work. Let's give it a crack. Luckily, Dad is much more disciplined and measured than I am, so he was always conscious of that side of the business. But no, for me, it was, there's a value proposition here which is incredibly compelling for a market that I understand very deeply because I am a developer, and if we just get that right, it will work. That was all I needed to essentially say, yep, we're doing this. And then obviously to make sure that the people were reliable and that we could count on them, because if, in the early years, if he had disappeared, then we'd be in a lot of trouble. Now we've got obviously redundancy and stuff built in, but for that first year, he was absolutely clutch. So what was your question?
How did you, so after you've set them systems and processes up, even though you just said that your dad sort of took control of that while you were rebelling against it, how did you get your first project through the door then? Because I know that must have been a pretty hard sticking point, was it?
Yeah, well, essentially we had our first couple of projects secured before I started. Yeah. So when, basically you've got to be either like, there's got to be something not quite right in your head to start a building company at the worst time, literally on recorded history, to be a builder. So we needed to know that the first year would be covered. So essentially through contacts, through existing clients, previous clients, friends, whatever, we had secured enough projects to break even on the first year.
Right.
And that was part of the reason that I thought we should give it a crack. Yeah.
Right. So you incorporated the company and then just got cracking straight into it. So was
Pretty
there
much.
a lead up rate to?
Yeah, so it takes approximately 6 months to set up a building company. At least that's how long it took us in terms of your building registrations, your licenses. There's a bunch of documentation that you need to put in and all of that. And in that time, I mean, we're setting up our softwares, we're setting up our trades list, we're doing all of that, setting up all our accounts, all of these things. So yeah, we poured our first slab in around October of 2017. Let's put it that way. But we did have the projects in place before we incorporated. So
Right.
we had enough, I mean, not obviously written contracts, but like handshake agreements with people that I trust that said, yes, we'll come to you, just get your stuff ready, and I'm happy to give you 6 months to lead. Yeah.
Right. So from pouring your first slab to now is roughly 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And
I
how's
guess
your
that's it.
pipeline of work looking currently?
Pipeline is looking pretty strong, pretty healthy.
Yeah.
I think we're projecting at least a 500% growth this year. We've actually doubled our previous year's revenue just like this morning I found out.
Yeah.
Because it's our monthly finance meeting.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So pipeline is looking very, very strong. Yeah. I think our challenge is going to be keeping up.
Right. You kind of making this sound easy though. Was it relatively straightforward, or was there all the overwhelm and stress and sleepless nights and everything else that goes into setting a business up, or was it because you had such a solid team you found it relatively easy?
Oh no, definitely, and that still exists. That, as far as I know, for entrepreneurs, especially people that are like similar personality types to me, that'll never go away. Just expect that you're going to be overwhelmed often, right?
Yeah.
The thing, I guess, so with regards to how did we deal with it, I guess, or what was it like as we were growing, it was incredibly difficult. The thing with a building company that people don't always understand is that if we start a project today in design, we have to hire the staff and all of that today, but then we don't get paid for 12 months down the track.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a big lag time between when you actually need to take on overhead versus when you're going to see some of that revenue come into place. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You need to be geared up for a project before you can actually start, and you don't get paid until you start. So that lag is always challenging, and it's nerve-wracking if you don't have the foresight and the financial planning to say, okay, we're going to lose 50K this month, we're going to lose 30K next month, and we're going to make 50K the following month, or whatever your whatever your projections show. But absolutely, I mean, if you see that you're burning through 50K a month in cash and you're not stressed, there's
something wrong with you.
something wrong with you,
Nerves of
exactly. But
steel.
that's what it's like setting up a company in the beginning, especially something. Yeah.
So it must have been nicely satisfying when that first progress payment came in, dropped into the
absolutely.
bank from the first project
Absolutely.
that you started.
Yeah.
And now they're just dropping in on a regular basis.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you have enough projects, they space out over time, and they so your revenue smooths out to some extent.
And how many projects have you got in the ground at the minute?
I'm not sure. I think about 8 or something like that.
No,
Yeah.
not bad.
Yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily track the number of projects. I track the revenue, the total value of projects. Yeah.
And as I know you just said you don't track it, but I'm going to ask you another question.
Yeah,
So
sure.
of the 8 projects, are they
it's not front of
are they
mind.
just single houses, or are we talking developments for developers?
Yeah, a combination of the above.
Right.
Yes. So where we excel and where we focus is in the small to medium scale residential development market, kind of like what we're doing for you and your project, right?
Yep.
5 houses is kind of our bread and butter. Some of our clients have been doing, more, boutique custom homes, especially that client that I mentioned that had just done the apartments before. Now he's building his own house. We're never going to turn him away. He's such a good person, and he's really looked after us. You know what I'm saying? So we'll make sure we help out when that is, and then so it's a range from smaller projects to bigger unit projects.
Yeah, cool. And can you see yourself getting into the bigger? You mentioned that the first project or the last project that they did under the other banner was 20 apartments.
Yeah.
Can you see yourself getting into that sort of area?
Yeah,
in the
absolutely.
future?
I think we've definitely got the capability. We need to put some runs on the board so that people trust us, and people can see what we've done. And I think that's going to come from doing consistent work and getting slightly bigger as we go.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely.
And do you advertise the business in any way?
No, not really. Actually.
So this has all come organically.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we So with our business model, we're heavily focused on repeat clients. So we do our best to be best in class in terms of cost, quality, and speed, and we target developers because that's really important to developers. You might not get a glossy brochure, but you're going to get a damn good build at a really good price and efficiently, right? There's a certain amount of the market that cares more about what they actually buy than the glossiness of the brochures.
Bells and whistles.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So with our market, if we're targeting developers and repeat clients, we really only need a handful of developers doing work regularly. So for us, it was more about getting these high value clients and building enough trust and executing perfectly, and then help and actually in a lot of ways educating them on how they can do better in their own businesses. That's how we've kind of grown it.
Yeah.
A lot of our business comes from repeat clients and word of mouth. And then, as you know, we started that group, Perth Property Developers, which is essentially to educate the community on how to profit from small deals.
Yeah, I was actually going to touch on PPD. So Perth Property Developers, tell us a bit more about it.
So Perth Property Developers is is a venture between Adam Barry, my co-founder, and myself. It started, Adam Barry, if you got to get him on the podcast sometime. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
He's been a developer for about 10 years as well. He's taken a very different journey to me, but he's exceptionally skilled at what he does. He was running meetings for property developers already, and he actually had invited me to be one of his guest speakers. And that event that I did was actually, that's when you and I met.
That's where we met.
Yeah, it is. And so I had put together a presentation, and in my mind, that presentation was meant to be, even though it wasn't a big, it was only meant to be a few people there or whatever, I had put in a lot of effort into that presentation, and the intention was that it would become it would become the framework for a day course or something like that. Anyway, once I did that presentation, the presentation was called "How to Profit from Small Deals in a Tough Market."
I was just about to ask you that. So that's what drew me in. The title of the presentation was called
"How to Profit from Small Deals in a Tough Market."
Yeah. And it was a tough market at the time.
It was really tough.
Nothing was happening.
Yeah. And that's what we did. So I showed a bunch of case studies, some of mine, some of my clients, and tried to give people some insight as to what's possible in the space of small developments, how you can add a couple of $100,000 to your income with a couple of hours a week, and that's what a lot of savvy developers are doing just by doing one project on the side and not putting in a lot of time. So after that meeting was, you were there, right? There's nowhere left to sit down. There was people standing up at the back, and it was incredibly well received. And you and I met. We've ended up doing some work together. Friendships were formed. Clients found us. And so after that, when I did my end of year review, I was thinking, well, what really worked for us? And that was one of the highlights of the year, I would say. And so I had it in my mind, like, well, how do I do more of that? And initially, what I was thinking was Perth Property Developers should be essentially, we should offer that type of day course. Maybe where we teach people, go into a lot of the nuances of how to do that, but also as essentially a meeting ground or a watering hole for elite property developers, people that are actually already in the game. A lot of the seminars and things target people that have never done it before, mums and dads, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But what about the professionals? What about the guys that are already doing one or two deals and just want to do better, do more, meet other people like themselves? So that was the vision for Perth Property Developers. And then I spoke to Adam about this, and he said it's a great idea. So we started that. Actually, I think our first event was June last year, and now we have almost 700 members.
Yeah, and community-wise, you talked about you want experienced people.
I think so.
Yeah, and of them 700 people, how's a ratio sitting, do you think? Because it's a good. I've been to the events and they're absolutely amazing. The content. Mm-hmm. I've actually spoke at one of the events. Brilliant.
It's a great
event.
Yeah.
There is a broad mix of experience.
There is
intermediate experience, and then beginners as well. So the broader mix of people's great.
I guess it's very, very hard to cater for elites because honestly, the people that have done this before need very detailed information, and it's very hard to present that on stage without being very dry. Yeah. But again, the people that are experienced really enjoy the networking. So we try to balance our events with some networking, and the content we do our best with, whatever we can. We try to get good speakers on stage, and we try to talk about topics that are interesting for the majority of people. I don't know how many people are experienced, but you've seen the group and the comments on that group. There's a lot of people that are quite experienced in that group.
There is.
And I think that they serve as shining lights. You guys, you all know who you are. They serve as shining lights for the other people in the community. And it's great that they're actually giving their time and energy to help people, answer questions on our group.
Yeah. And how do people find Perth property developers?
So if you jump on Facebook and you search Perth property developers, I think we're probably the only one that comes up, and join the Facebook group, and I will approve you to join. And yeah, that'll be how you get on it. Yeah. And
the events and the networking opportunities come through that group, don't they?
Yeah, they all come through that group. You'll hear about them mostly on that. And when you sign up, you'll be asked for your email address. So we'll send you out emails as well.
Brilliant. Excellent. So we've spoke quite a bit about the journey that you've taken there. There's one more thing that I do want to touch on.
Sure.
It's the newest venture that you're involved in,
yeah,
which we did touch on earlier. It's the rum importation. So tell us a bit more about that.
The rum. Well, so the story behind the rum was pretty much my partner, my fiance now, I guess. She is from a tiny little French island called Réunion. It's a beautiful tropical island just next to Mauritius. So if you don't know where that is, you kind of go up to about the level of Exmouth, and you go about 7,000 k's west. So directly across, right?
Yeah.
And it's this beautiful island, and they've got the whole island is a volcano, and they've got this like really amazing culture around rum. So it's been colonized by the French now. It's been handed over a few times between the French and the British, and you can kind of see that in the culture. But because of its position and its tropical nature, there's lots of sugar cane, and so they've really developed a culture around rum. And the family that my partner's from is one of the first generations of Réunion. I think they're like 8 generations or something like that. I think she might be 7th generation. And they have a rum distillery over there. And they've got this really amazing culture in Réunion. What they do is they throw in all these like fresh fruits and spices into their rums, and then all the oils from the fruits and the sugars and everything else kind of gets absorbed into the rum, and then they strain it out so that it's back to a liquid, and they essentially drink this like infused rum, and that's called rum arrangé. And this particular rum is insanely tasty, and you would never realize that it's a 40% alcohol because it's so sweet and delicious. It's like a dessert, right? So when I went to visit them for the first time, they gave me this glass, like a shot glass of this banana flambe rum. And me being, not from Réunion, I did what you do when someone hands you a shot glass. I shot it, right? And they just laughed at me, and I didn't understand why, because they're all sipping it. And I was like, whatever. They poured me another one, and and so on and so forth. And when I tasted this, I thought this must be like some liqueur. And yeah, after 3 or 4 of these, I'm like, wow, this is really punchy. And I had a look at the bottle, and I realized it's a 40% spirit. And I just had this image of people, drinking this on the beach and just essentially it being a really awesome drink.
Yeah.
And nothing like it in Perth, or nothing like it anywhere I'd ever seen. So when Audrey, my partner, when she was looking to essentially get into her new thing, I thought, well, I think you should bring this over. And so we set up a little side venture, which is essentially a rum importing company. And that's been something that I guess we've been working on recently. We've had our challenges because we're both so busy with everything else.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you find time?
Yeah, well, we don't, or we haven't. That's been one of the challenges of the business, is that it's the business that we have focused on least. And, that shows how the other businesses have been doing really well, and this one's kind of been neglected to some extent.
Yeah. So
this year we were really pushing to do better with this particular business, and so we brought on a couple of new members to the team. One of them is obviously your beautiful wife, Joanna. She's Pocket Rocket, and then Rev, our marketing Facebook marketing guy.
Yeah.
So these, essentially, if what we've done is we put together a new team to just re-energize the business, and it'll be very interesting to see what 2020 holds for the rum company.
Certainly will, mate. I'm very excited. Are we going to do a little business trip to Réunion?
Absolutely. I think we're getting one booked in October, is it? Yeah,
I hope
like
so.
Yeah.
I hope so. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think it's the 176th year anniversary party. So you guys are going to come to that.
Yeah, excellent. So what does a day in the life look like for you now? Because you've obviously got all these things going on. You're pretty busy. Do you find time for yourself? Is it just up and work and then back to bed?
No, I mean, I honestly don't feel that busy. Like, I'm maybe because,
I don't think your staff will like that one.
Well, they know what I'm up to. And most of the time they just tell me to get out of their way because they're more efficient at what they need to do than I am. And often I'm just nagging them, right?
Yeah.
So Mondays and Fridays are typically clinical days where I spend, a day seeing patients, which I still do and still really enjoy. And then Tuesday, Wednesdays, Thursdays are the days that I focus on everything else. Typically I have a pretty good sleep routine. I try to get to bed pretty early and I try to wake up fairly early. You've seen my messages at 5 o'clock in the morning.
I haven't yet. Thank you.
I'm definitely a morning person, I would say. I guess you try to balance what you have and just try to structure the things that are important and schedule the things that are important.
Yeah.
And that's.
Is there any sort of meditation or gym routines going in there as well? Or
Yeah, meditation. So I think meditation for me is quite an important thing. It helps me stay, focused. Honestly, it's something I haven't been doing enough of lately. And one of my staff actually called me out on it and says, you seem a bit distracted lately. And I was like, damn it, you've got me. Gym is something as well that I probably need to do a bit more of. I probably need to focus a little bit more on that. I mean, it's, I guess for me, I've never been unhealthy. So it's not been a pain point for me, but yeah, I definitely need to start doing more of the gym stuff. What I've been fairly consistent with is waking up early and getting to, basically getting my head right with a nice, journaling session and making sure that I'm on track and keeping focused on my priorities.
Yeah. How much time do you give to that in the morning? So do you wake up and then just get straight into journaling and goal reviewing? Or is it like 15 minutes, half an hour?
Yeah, pretty much. So do you want to know like mechanics of the exact routine?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, okay.
Because I think for me, I was quite surprised when I first got into the sort of entrepreneurial realm that all these successful people have a set routine to start the day. To start the day with the right mindset, it puts them in a good position to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I'll typically get up around 5:30 and I'll usually set the alarm around 5:15. So usually it's about 15 minutes of me of just kind of like slowly getting out of bed and, waking up. Mm-hmm. After that, I'll usually, go to the bathroom, get ready for the day. And then after I've done that, usually I'm thinking. So I'm actually learning French at the moment. So I'll spend a bit of time just, 10, 15 minutes just doing my little French lessons. Yeah. And then, as soon as I've finished that, usually I'll go and do a quick journaling session, just write out, whatever you need to do I've got a list of questions that I can show you another time if you want, but it's pretty much like mornings usually for me are about where are you heading and evenings are usually about where have you been. So morning questions are all about what are you doing today? Are you on track with the future? And then the evenings are how have you been going and reflections on the past. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Lessons learned, that kind of thing. So then I'll do that. Pretty much straight after that, I'll jump into the shower and head into the office. I'm usually in the office around between 6:30 and 7 most days. My staff, depending on the day, some people will get in about 7:30. Most of them get in between 7:30 and 9. We have very flexible working hours, so sometimes people come in at 10. It's whatever's kind of on for the day. Yeah. But that first 2 hours of the morning is usually a quiet period where I can kind of focus on the stuff that I need to get done. So if I need to write anything creative or do any creative work or there's some important deadline that needs to get hit that day, that's the time to get it done. Because after that, people are there, people are running around, everyone's got a question, you need to make sure that you're there for everyone else now. Yeah.
Plus you're a morning person too, you said. So that first few hours in the morning is where morning people can really knuckle in. Exactly. And focus for the time that they've got.
Yeah. So I used to try to exercise in the morning. It doesn't work for me, to be honest. I'm much better off. I'm very mentally alert in the morning. So I should use that time for mental activities. Mm-hmm. And then I usually don't eat breakfast. It's just black coffee for me in the mornings. And then I'll have our whole team will sit together for lunch at around midday. Yep. That's a fairly stable part of the day, which you've come to our lunches many times.
I love them. Dude.
It's awesome, man. Yeah. It just keeps us, it just reminds us that we're like a big family at the end of the day. The table's getting a bit small now.
Yeah, you're going to need a bigger room soon.
So we do that at pretty much at midday on the dot every day. And then I'll usually, depending on the day, so I'm just starting another challenge at the gym now. So 6 o'clock will be the gym session time. But otherwise, usually I'll finish the office around somewhere between 5:30 and 6 is probably when the traffic's died down is usually when I'll head home.
Yeah.
In the evening, it's pretty relaxed. A night routine for me is probably more important than a morning routine because I'm incredibly sensitive to a lack of sleep. So, I know I can't drink coffee after like 1 p.m., for example. And so the night routine is usually turning off all the lights and only having very dim lamps on after about 7:30. It's about kind of actively winding down, not doing anything mentally too strenuous. And then, when you're in bed, you're just reading or doing something very low intensity so that you can fall asleep easily.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that, sometimes there's been times I've experimented with like various types of teas to relax you and stuff, which are cool, but I don't feel they're essential for me.
Yeah.
But they're fun to do.
Just the right wind down. Just
exactly.
Gets your body.
But a very active wind down. Yeah. Very important to actually because if you want to get to bed, if you want to get up at 5, that means you have to be asleep by 9 to get 8 hours of sleep, right? That means you have to be in bed by 8:30. That means if you get home at 6, by the time you eat, you take a shower maybe, you start winding down. Yeah. There's no time. There is really no time left. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, mate, because
so
I have the same challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you realize at 9 o'clock that you should be in bed and you're still wired from the day, it's going to be 10:30 before you actually fall asleep.
Yeah, it is hard. It is hard. And we've just moved office now, and before that, me and my wife used to work till like 8:30 because the office was at the house, and then we used to go to bed and we used to just lie in bed with our eyes open thinking, why have we done it again?
Yeah.
Why have we done it? So having that new office and having the this is where work ends and this is where life begins again, and then we've slowly started bringing that routine back in ourselves too, so it makes a huge difference.
It does.
Huge difference. What about mentors? I know you've touched briefly on, you've always looked up, you've worked with your dad, and I know your dad's brought a lot of experience with his building background. What other kind of mentors have you had in your life? We've got like the famous Tony Robbinses and all them type of people. Do you look to people like that, or are your mentors more local people, friends, relatives, that type of thing?
Yeah, probably both, I would say. I've looked up to a lot of those people that I read about and see on stage and all of this, and probably to some extent idolized them in many ways. And then, you kind of, which can be soul destroying because, you expect that it's going to be so different and you've got to be this and you've got to be that. And you only see like the highlight reel basically of those people. You don't see what it's like behind the scenes. So yes, I definitely do look up to them and still think they're an awesome source of learning and motivation and all of this. But then there is also local people that I work with regularly who I see as mentors in various ways. As I mentioned, my dad is a very important mentor of mine. He's he's a very stable, consistent, disciplined, measured type of guy, which is exactly the type of guy you want running a company, by the way. You don't want someone that's really hyperactive and, ADD like me, especially when it comes to like a management role. So he's taught me a lot about management in general, and also, just about leadership, I guess, because that stability that he brings actually gives our whole team a sense of like safety, if that makes sense. He's like a father of everyone. He's not just my dad, right?
Yeah.
One of the other, my first business partner was someone I worked with very, very closely for, the better part of a decade now. And again, a very, very different skill set, fantastic at putting people together. He, he pretty much taught me, I would say 90% of what I know about building teams and how to motivate people and how to, get stuff done, let's say. So there's been probably a few standout people like that have done over and above, but there is a lot of learning from everyone, So, if you ever come and spend a day in the office, you'll see from Krishna how to work with attention for extended periods of time. He's the most focused person I've ever seen. You spend a day with Gurpreet, you'll see how he actually manages his trades, like with just incredible skill. I don't know how he manages them to such a high quality and still maintains that degree of like mateship, but it's very clear that there's a hierarchy when it comes to getting work done.
Yeah.
So everyone's probably got their own skills around you, and it's about learning from them. But then obviously for me, there's been a few standouts along the way as well.
So they don't necessarily need to be labelled as mentors. They can
Everyone,
just be
you're constantly
people.
learning, right?
Yeah.
So in every moment, there's a different mentor.
Yeah, very true, very true. What's your 3 favourite books, standout books that have changed your life?
Ooh, 3 favorite books that have changed my life. Okay. So probably let's split this up into like stages of the career. So probably in the earlier stages of entrepreneurship, I think some books that were really helpful for me were like Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad Poor Dad, those types of classics. Yeah. But at that stage, I guess you're really just trying to like get out of your own way. You've got all these belief systems which are just holding you back, and you kind of just need to break through them. One particular book that I would say that stands out for me is called The Leader Who Had No Title by Robin Sharma. He's actually probably the first when I was ready to take action. So I read those earlier books before I was ready to take action, but that was the book that really inspired me to action immediately, let's say. Whether that was the book or the stage I was in my life, I don't know. But a lot of the getting up at 5 a.m. started from that book. Then if you look at like the middle of the career, what is a great book? So I don't know if you've read The Personal MBA by John Kaufman or something like that. That is a fantastic overall business skills book, which I think probably anyone getting into business should probably be across.
The Personal MBA.
Personal MBA, yeah. And then I guess towards the more recent, I've been trying to read more about how to make decisions better, how to think more clearly, how to improve your rationality, that kind of thing. How to think about business. So probably a good book would be something like Principles by Ray Dalio, where he just talks about more at a higher level.
It's a huge book as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But it's every part of it is just, that should be a Bible, as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, I guess, probably those types. One that I'm reading recently, which I actually gifted you as well, it was called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Oh man, that is just gold.
Yeah, my wife's reading that now. She's going to be a tough negotiator. That one.
Good. Not on me though.
Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. It's weird, isn't it? He keeps popping up on my news feed.
Yeah, I think they want me to buy his masterclass, and they know that I'm going to do it. I'm just waiting for the Black Friday sale.
Good stuff. Where's your best place to eat in Perth?
Best place to eat in Perth? There is a little pizza joint in Maylands called Rossonero. It's just behind the Seasonal Brewery, which is on the corner of Guildford Road and 8th Ave.
Yeah.
And that place does exceptional pizzas. And, shout out to my town. So that would be, for me, one of my favorite places to eat.
Is that the big one on the corner?
No, that's Rifo's.
Yeah.
There's a more boutique one just behind that.
Right.
Rossonero it's called. Yeah. Cool. And amazing pizzas. Yeah.
I have to go there, check it out one night.
Yeah. Have we not been?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Well, we'll put it in the calendar.
Okay, let's do it. Sounds good.
Excellent, mate. Excellent. Well, look, thank you very much for coming in. There's a lot of takeaways from that there. I really appreciate your time.
It's been my pleasure.
Excellent, mate. So join us next week on the Perth Entrepreneur Podcast. And remember, every master was once a disaster and every winner was once a beginner.